Well, the All Progressives Congress faces a battle to convince Nigerians after 7 years in power. Presidential candidate of the ruling party, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, has been the man in focus and has been in the news for various reasons. Now, with less than 70 days to the 2023 elections, Nigerians are looking to the APC for what's coming. Some of the current battles against the party are its failure to honor invitation of the Nigerian press section, and of course the reaction of Nigerians to the APC, its quest for continuity, and the issues surrounding the history of its candidates, and the much touted man to beat. We'll also be looking at representative democracy while later on as well in the show. Joining me to discuss this is Kehinde Bamigbetan. He's the chairman of Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council Media and Publicity Committee for Lagos State. Good to see you, and thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
I was always excited, speaking with people who are also, you can easily say, well, media professionals, to talk more about this. Now, let's take away the political cop for a moment and talk about the media in an election year and see how this is going for your party. More so now that a section of the media is also saying that some of the media handlers of your candidate aren't doing the right thing by shielding your candidate from the media.
Well, one thing we have to understand is that the media is available to all of us, particularly the press has been given certain mandates by the Constitution to hold government accountable. And if you understand the way politics works, when you are seeking votes, you have the audience, the main audience is the electorate, and your responsibility is to see how you can persuade the electorate, to vote for you. So the media basically is an interface mechanism that can enable you to access the electorate, to convey your views to the electorate. So it is not an exhaustive mechanism because you also have direct access to the electorate. Now, when you are doing your strategizing or how you can reach the electorate, you must begin to determine what are the best channels that you want to use. You want to engage them directly, or you want to go through the media to engage them. And in doing so, you also have to analyze the media, essentially, where we have to do what we call the mapping of the media, to understand which section of the media will enable you to effectively deliver your message to your audience, to the electorate. And in that way, you have to discriminate, because not all the media can deliver what you want. And so, to that extent, the person who is doing the strategy at the party level has a clear idea of the medium that he will want to patronize to achieve that purpose. From that perspective, therefore, it's a strategic thing. So if you, in your own, as a media person, as a press institution, wants to, provide that opportunity, provide that access, and it is not in the strategic interest of that organization to use you, you can just go to other, there are 18 parties, so you can go and feature other parties. It is so big deal, but that you must focus on one person. There are 18 political candidates, presidential candidates in this matter. How many have you gone to? Well, how must you zero on one person? Because that person has said, look, for me to reach the electorate that will vote for me, I do not need your medium. And that is a fair strategic decision that you can take.
So it's all about strategy.
It's about strategy.
And as you've highlighted, you've also said that the media is a go between the candidate and the electorate, and the electorates and the candidates, And you also push this by saying you can also do what you call mapping to see who's on your side and who's not on your side. Is it safe now for us to say we have a partisan media in play in Nigeria?
There's no place where the media exists that it is not one way or the other, in quote, partisan. It's you know what Fox News does, for example, and you know what CNN does. So it ultimately, because of ownership issues, because of ideological issues, you find that certain organizations in the media also tend to feature or follow or patronize certain segments, of the elites or of the political spectrum. And to that extent, if you are planning, if you are doing your strategy, you must decide, you must do your mapping, which of this medium can best, convey, can act. For example, if you have a grassroots media, for example, and an elitist media, and you are a party that is mainly grassroots, maybe left of the spectrum, you would tend, for example, to pass your messages through those organs that are essentially left, that appeal to the working class, that appeal to the masses. But if you are basically like it is said, more elitist in your conception of society, you may be willing to support or to go through those media that are supportive of the elite. So it's basic, simple strategy thinking.
Speaking of strategy, Kehinde, speaking of strategy, I think it resonates with a lot of people. Yes, your point's noted. But what some Nigerians don't understand is that your candidate, loved by many, but again, you can't say the way you have given the count, about 18 presidential candidates, and we have countless of media organizations, but your candidate hasn't actually spoken with any. So are we saying that the mapping involves, avoiding every section of the Nigerian media, because there's not been a.
Let me tell you,
yes.
that is factually, that's not correct, because he has held town hall meetings. In town hall meetings, the press are invited, press organizations are invited, journalists are there, they report him. One, he has attended rallies, right? In these rallies, the media will be available, and they will report him, and he has granted one-on-one in a few cases, you must have been at a place when he went to the president in Kaduna, for example, and a member of the media came to him and asked him at that time, who is going to be your vice presidential candidate? And he said, I'm not going to tell you, those are one-off, and since he emerged, he has spoken to various organizations in the media at several periods. So it's not true to say he has never spoken, the Nation, the Tribune, he's spoken to them. The point basically is that when one press organization decides to also develop its own strategy of engaging political candidates, right, and gets, for one reason or the other, are rebuffed, right, and then it tends now to become an issue. But the point is that there are you run an organization, all right? You have invited me here, and I'm here, right? But there are other organizations like that who also have a right, to be spoken to be engaged. So the fact that one person out of 18, that should not be an issue. That should not be controversy at all, because you have the power within your own space. And so you go ahead and test your capacity. Ultimately, this is not about media. This is about the people determining who they want to run their lives.
I want us to speak about the people, but not before we wrap up on this, because I know it will also bother you. It will worry you, because you've always been a journalist, and to see that the very senior people in Nigerian journalism, some of the finest, are taking it out on each other or into politics, saddens, a lot of journalists, myself inclusive. Looking at Dele Alake, looking at, Nduka Bagbina, looking at these people who you would ordinarily say these are the seniors and the torchbearers of the profession. But politics is now making everyone looking so dirty. Perhaps let's get your personal opinion on this. Do you see a resolution to what is going on now, or do you think we need to wait till after politics before this is resolved? It is dirty.
I do not agree with you. I do not agree with you that it is dirty. The facts that have been brought to limelight in this matter are very common, very notorious facts. You know, I mean, there's nothing, nobody's inventing anything in this matter. In fact, what could say that just flashbacks and recalls. You know, if you and it just happens that when you are in the field of politics, you are a political communicator. You are not. It's no longer journalism. This is political communications. Okay, and people have to understand that when an Onanuga is speaking, it's not just as a journalist anymore. It's a political communicator, right? When Oladide Alake is speaking, he's speaking as a political communicator. It's not just. It's also thinking about many factors, not just journalism now. He's thinking about public relations, He's thinking about the image management of the candidates, And so, if at any point in time in medium, wants to turn itself into the standard bearer, the judge, perhaps it is necessary to bring them back to understand that, look, that's not the way this play goes, Everybody nobody is a saint in this business, Everybody has one reason or the other to bend for each other. So don't take a magisterial view, because it's not real. It's not normal. It's not the real thing. Okay? The real thing basically is that the people involved are people of flesh and blood, and at some point or the other, somebody might have done something wrong, but when it is time to do this thing, don't give the impression that this person must come to me, must attend my. That's not fair to anybody.
Do you smell a smear campaign or an ambush, which
the point is that tendentiously this day has already carved a niche as in quotes, an attack dog, and it started not over 3, 4, 5 years ago when tendentiously the editor of this day, Mr. Shaka Mamadou, consistently turns his opinion as just opinion page or column into an attack article. And this had been, so when your editor, who is editing a national newspaper, turns his own opinion article into, harassing a particular person, and then election comes, and then you find out that those patterns are still repeating themselves, you will do your mapping. That, okay, these people seem not to be for me, okay? And luckily, it's not a mono media system. It's a multiple media system. And thank God that we have it.
Speaking of which, now that we know that we have a multiple media system.
Yeah, so you could go to other places and express yourself, and convey your messages.
But again, since there are alternatives, the town hall meetings, will it get to a point where your candidate will have a select team of representatives of media that you have the belief that are not there to sell the ideology of an opposition at the detriment of your campaign or your candidate, to have this kind of conversation with the media as we've seen at the Chatham House perhaps?
Why don't we think with structured approach to this matter? The ultimate people who will decide are the voters. Okay? And if that is agreed, then how I get to the voters is my business, primarily. How I get to the voters is my business. You, as a media person, you want to sell your paper. You want people to view you. You make money. You are a business person. It's not because you like my face, right? It's because really you have an audience and you want to continuously serve that audience, right? You actually want to shape the opinion of that audience. Right? That may not be in my interest. Why don't I go over your head and go straight and talk and do direct contact? Why can't I do that? Nothing in the laws that disallows me from doing that. So I'm just saying that we have to open our mind that this is about strategy, it's about winning, right? It's not about being opposed to the media or at all. It's about saying that, look, which one will help me more? If I go through the media, will it help me or if I go directly to the voters.
Speaking of which, so how is it going for your candidate?
So
is the strategy, working best, more for your candidate?
From the perception that we have, we think that, it is working. People are responding very well. We're doing house by house across the country. We're knocking on doors across the country, and people are responding. We're getting direct views. So people have to also understand that, the game can change at any point in time.
And the door-to-door conversation, which is quite instructive here. What are the conversations you have with some of these electorates? What do they want? Because some are already thinking that, look, for a party that some are not too excited about in the last administration of President Buhari, perhaps it might be a tough call for the candidate of the APC to convince the same people, specifically those who are aggrieved and not excited about the performance of this present government.
You see, the good thing is that we all know that this country is going through a lot of stress, and we know that this government has tried its best to do the best it can do. But we also know that the candidate we are having right now is a very, very peculiar candidate. Peculiar in the sense that he has run the nation's industrial and commercial capital, and he ran it for 8 years. And in running it, he has had certain successes, certain, unassailable achievements that all of us can say. If you use these as a basis of projection, then you are going to have a better performance, when you put him there as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And those are the unique selling points of this candidate, of this campaign. The fact that when you're talking of power, there was the man who brought Heron, as early as the year 2000 to provide alternative energy for the industries in Lagos so that they will not be collapsing. And we knew the response of the PDP then. The PDP shut Heron down, made it difficult for Lagos State to be able to use Heron, and they had to offload to another company, right? And now, we know that this same man was the one who brought in IPP. IPP is now becoming popular, but when the idea of independent power projects came on board, it was new, it was novel, And today, we know that in Lagos State, the secretariat, the court system, and the hospitals are now on IPP. Marina is on IPP, right? Now, that just tells you that this is somebody who already has some perspective, has a record on managing energy for the country. And coming from the fact that he has a background in mobile, you can also see how the use of gas, for power will become an issue and will be managed. Or you want to look at how he opened the access to real estate, and turned the whole place into a new place.
Speaking of which, you were commissioner, sorry to butt in there, you were commissioner for information and strategy here in Lagos.
Yes.
And how does it feel when you hear people say, Tinubu is not the architect of modern Lagos? Now you're talking about axis and opening up of X, Y, and Z, but they say that Lagos has always existed. Lagos has always had the federal the federal touch, and it's not because of the Midas touch of your candidate. So tell us something else.
Because in many of the cases, with due respect to them, they don't know what they think they know. They don't know what they think they know. Perhaps they don't know that as at 1999, large span of Lagos State did not even have a general hospital. Alimosho did not have a general hospital. Mushi did not have a general hospital. Shomolu did not have a general hospital. As at 1999 in this Lagos State. And it took Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to build new hospitals in those places. There was no teaching hospital across the whole of Lagos State, essentially. So these are areas that they didn't know. And that's why when we engage them, we bring them on board to understand that, when somebody says, I don't agree, the idea of a jungle city, that's not the point. But the point is that the development of a city within the 8 years of 1999 to 2007 was very, very remarkable. You cannot deny that. There was no BRT. Nobody ever thought of BRT. He thought of BRT, and 2004, work on BRT started gradually, all right? Or you talk of the various agencies that were created, like Lasambos, for example, So what we are saying basically is that this man has done some things in Lagos that has changed the face of Lagos. And if you are going to use him, or what he has done, to project about what's likely to happen at the federal level within 4 years, you can safely say that what you are going to have will be better than what you have had in the last 6 years, fairly. And that's what we ask people, that let's be fair, let's deal with facts and not just begin to just talk around the issue. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has proven again and again, to be an asset to the Nigerian people. When you're talking of the history of democracy in Nigeria, you cannot take him out of the pro-democracy struggle, the June 12th struggle that led ultimately to the current republic that we have. And within that current republic, when you're talking of the sanctity of the vote, because right now we are going to vote, but people forget the fact that there was a time when votes had become easily compromised. When a party, incidentally, when the People's Democratic Party took over many of the states in the Southwest simply by rigging, and it took the courts to reverse that process. And they forgot that the one person who invested in the forensic investigation of the rigging was no other person than Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It was the one for, you remember in 1983, when Awolowo lost the election, he said he would not contest again. But this time, when people were rigged out, Asiwaju said, look, there must be a way out. Let us even investigate. How did these votes, how were they counted? And there was simple auditing of the process, that if you voted, in poll booth 001, then your ballot paper should not be found in poll booth 0010. Simple auditing like that enabled us to discover that a ballot paper found of 001 found in 010 automatically meant that it was a rigged vote. It was forensic that enabled people to know that you could use coconut seeds on ink to pretend to be the thumbprint of an individual. Those things were never thought of, by politicians before. It was an Asiwaju that you brought his auditing experience to be able to audit the voting process. That is why we are increasing the sanctity and the value of the vote today. So it's not just that he struggled for democracy. Even for our democracy to have survived the rigging haste of the People's Democratic Party, Asiwaju had a role to play in it. So, and that's why we say that this candidate is a peculiar candidate. It's a candidate that has been able to show and demonstrate capacity, for innovative thinking, for thoughtless execution, for visioning.
Well, I think that's a fine place for us to leave it tonight. Kehinde Bamigbetan.
All right.
Thanks for speaking with us here on
Thank you.
Politics HQ.
Thank you.
We'll be right back to give you something, just a bit, to chew on. The question about Nigeria's stamp duty is all out there, to the extent that a lot of people have been asking the question, is Nigeria broke? But where is Nigeria's stamp duty? That's a question on the lips of locals. Now, 89, you got that, 89 trillion naira is nowhere to be found. Yet Nigeria owes 44 trillion naira. Now, does Nigeria really owe when you see that amount being bandied and another that is being lost? Now, is Nigeria really owing? But Nigerians are owing. Nigerians are held in a chokehold by some very few influential yet corrupt Nigerians. Where is the money? Who is ripping Nigeria apart? Nigeria is too blessed for Nigerians to suffer. Yes, when does the country live up to its blessings? Now, there's a message to powerful Nigerians that are putting others in a difficult position and making the country harder to live in. Get off and allow the country breathe. The problem is with the corrupt Nigeria. This country, Nigeria, can be a greater one if you choose to be just and kind. Chew on that. I'm Sulaiman. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.